Welcome, and I'm really excited to have both parents as well as student athletes joining me today for what is really necessary with regard to all the changes within the college baseball recruiting world. So for the 2025s, 2026s, I thought I would go and create a recruiting masterclass that would allow parents and student athletes to gain some insight, more importantly, information that will help you for your recruiting process. My name is Walter Beede, aka Coach Beede. I have over 38 years of experience with not only college baseball, but the industry of baseball as a parent, a student athlete, obviously as a coach. One of the things that I try to get parents to understand is utilizing my experience. I've seen the sport go in cycles. This is one of those cycles. It's nothing to be frustrated about. And I really want to let you know as parents, one of the things that I feel is an integral part of this process is trust. College coaches, postgraduate schools, they put their trust in me with regard to evaluations of not only student athletes, but their overall academic profile for the right fit for a student athlete, a prospective student athlete, when it comes to a particular college, university, or postgraduate school. I have been able to help thousands and thousands of families, and I've put in thousands of hours with regard to evaluating, developing relationships, understanding the process in its totality, where most within the space helping athletes are former players or possibly former coaches. Very, very few come at this from the perspective of a parent. And that's something that I am able to provide for parents that help guide you and your student athlete throughout the entirety of your process. One of the things that I want you to understand is some of the best content that you as a family can be provided is to hear directly from those college coaches, which really makes our YouTube channel something really, really special for you as a family. Not only are you getting information from the college coaches via Coach Beede, the programs that I present to you on YouTube, but we hear from nutritionists, strength trainers, we hear from mental performance coaches, those coaches that can help your student athlete throughout the entirety of this process, which has come to a kind of not a grinding halt, but it's slowing down and it's allowing you as parents to make sure your student athlete is properly prepared. One of the things now is when you turn on any social media platform, is chaos. There's differences of opinion, and obviously the settlement is pertaining specifically to the Division I NCAA landscape. And the settlement has kind of given our industry, the youth baseball industry, a shock to the system. And so I think you as parents, and more importantly as student athlete, having to know these changes that are occurring almost on a daily, weekly basis, sometimes it can lead to misinformation. And misinformation can be absolutely detrimental with regard to maybe not pursuing a school you thought would be a good fit, and you're not relying on the proper information that relates and really has a specific application to your student athlete. So because of that kind of chaos and that misinformation, I really wanted to take the time today to be able to give you facts and strategies that will help you succeed throughout your process, not only with regard to college recruiting, but also postgraduate. I want to really encourage you to subscribe. Subscribing to the YouTube channel is free. Plenty of free content every single week, whether it's recruiting tips, whether it has to do with strength training, whether it's pitching skill sets, catching, fielding, hitting, etc. Also, membership. I can't stress this enough. This whole industry is reliant on you as parents and student athletes to be underinformed and really fearful. A membership to the YouTube channel for Coach Beede is allowing you access to my ebooks, to my courses, to all of my live Q&As for parents on a twice a month basis. That will allow you to stay up to speed and current on everything regarding the college recruiting process. You know, the NCAA Division I settlement has really caused a lot of families to really get a little bit unnerved because they think that the world no longer will have opportunities, options, spots, roster spots specifically for their student athlete. But this pertains to all of college baseball. And I really think for parents, we want to slow this process down. The settlement, you know, it kind of rewrites the rules as we've known them post-COVID, but really what we're doing is we're going back to the world of college athletics pre-COVID with regard to roster sizes and spots and things of that nature. Number one thing to understand as a family is knowledge is your edge. It is your foundation. Without knowledge, you run around and you think, I'm missing out, I'm fear like I'm not getting enough information, it's going to affect, we're going to lose our opportunities, and nothing could be further from the truth. You know, so really what has changed? That's the question that you have to ask. You know, if we go back to pre-COVID, roster spots were 35, 11.7 scholarships. Really what this whole settlement is all about, and what it has always been all about, is athletes having the opportunity through name, image, and likeness to derive income. It allows colleges above board to begin to pay their student athlete for their name, their images, their likeness on websites, on social media pages. They're always marketing their university, their athletic program, and so that's really the crux of what this settlement is. Now, when parents start to hear about scholarship increases, that will only pertain to approximately 35% of Division I programs are going to be affected by increasing college scholarships. The vast majority of Division I baseball programs are probably just going to be in that 11.7, maybe slightly higher, but not much. And so this is something that always, from the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, the rosters were always going to be approximately 35, and you're dividing up 11.7 or 12 scholarships amongst 27, 27 being they are the scholarship athletes. You had walk-ons. So walk-ons will still be a part of college athletics, college baseball specifically. One of the things that I want you to really understand is it's very, very important to not get confused with some of these other litigation, you know, the Diago Pavia that I keep referring to with regard to Vanderbilt and the extra year from the JUCO. That is a one-off. And so many parents are under the illusion that I can go to JUCO for 2 years, it won't affect my eligibility, and then I'll have currently 4 years at the NCAA Division III, II, or I. That's really not accurate. You have 4 years within 5 athletically. That may be changed, it's being challenged. We could see 5 years of eligibility, but as of today, that's not. Friday, June 6th, 9 p.m., you know, Judge Wilkin kindly gave her blessings and approved the final version of the settlement. And the integral part there was her inclusion of the student athletes that she's designated as designated student athletes. So I really want to kind of make sure that you as a family understand that. And that means that when you're a student athlete, if you are on a roster in 2024 or 2025, you cannot lose your roster spot due to these roster caps. And so whether it's your current academic institution or a future academic institution, that designation stays with you as long as you're a student athlete, obviously in good standing within the NCAA. Now, it also applies to the 2025 high school athletes. And so if they have a letter of intent and they were awarded a roster spot and you have written verification either via the LOI, possibly an email or a text message, that 2025 high school graduate can also be designated as a DSA student. Important, you want to communicate with your coaches or your college or university compliance offices. You want to make sure if you know your name is on that list, you want to be notified of that if possible. One of the biggest changes, obviously, is that schools can now share their roughly $22.5 million if they've opted into the collective revenue share that will be dispersed over all student athletes, all sports throughout the school. Important to understand, you see that number 22.5, but many schools, for instance, Baylor, I think Penn State, I want to say some of the SEC schools, they've come out and they're raising additional monies. And so there'll be more than just that 22.5. And every athlete, it's all going to be based on productivity from the coach's perspective. And so what you want to understand is just because revenue sharing is in place doesn't mean every Division I athlete is going to be compensated tens of thousands of dollars. It could just be a simple arrangement with the school where every week they pay you a $500 a week stipend. Important to note that every athlete within the NCAA has the ability to go out and market themselves, whether it's a local pizza, fast food, a car dealership, anything along those lines, anything to do with the social media, whether you want to be a promoter, those types of things now allow athletes to go out and promote themselves and generate additional income over and above the revenue they are receiving from their college or university. Scholarship caps have been removed, but it's important for you as parents to truly understand you're not being penalized. This is not being done to penalize student athletes. In fact, again, reiterating, we're going back to pre-COVID. And so at the Division I level, schools are now given the option, if they are so inclined, whether it's a conference decision or an individual college or university, they can go up to 34 full scholarships for baseball, but also the vast majority may in fact, even if they've opted into the collective, choose to stay at 11.7. It's important to ask those questions during your recruiting meetings with the coaches or conversations with the coaches. It's really important to be proactive and bring that question up. One of the things that you have to really understand is with the cap of 34 roster spots, that is a decision that is made December 1st this year, 2025, and every year following. December 1st is when spring rosters will need to be submitted. They may go up to 38 in the fall, and bear in mind, if you're one of those athletes in the fall that's part of the 34, you want to make sure you know that potentially 4 athletes could be getting cut. So you really want to communicate with your coaching staff on that. The other part of this is even if a school chooses to opt out or not opt in, those schools will have a cap of 35 as opposed to 34, and you really need to understand nobody is going to hoard talent. They're not going to kind of collect DSA students because there's a Title IX implication. You need to understand football and baseball are the 2 largest male sports that have to be offset by the female and the women's sports. So you need to understand it's not going to behoove any school or university to stockpile talent. These types of myths that are going to be floating out there, the misinformation I call it, these are things you want to avoid. Every player is not getting $20 million. Every player is not getting $1 million. Every player is not getting $100,000. It's really revenue sharing that is going to be capped at each school as far as the school sharing the revenue directly with the athletes. Again, the athletes can and should be looking to enhance their earning opportunities via all of the myriad of opportunities with regard to promoting, being an influencer, and so forth. The other myth, walk-ons are gone. That's not really true. And as a matter of fact, walk-ons now will have just as many opportunities as they've done in the past, pre and post-COVID. It's really important to have a dialogue with your college coaches, especially when you're going to camps and you're going to showcases. Yes, schools are going to prioritize certain scholarship players with regard to playing opportunities, but walk-ons will still be an active part of every single college baseball recruiting class. Just because you're not getting a scholarship doesn't mean you don't have the ability to generate income through the name, image, and likeness on your own. Next, the myth of D1 or bust kind of path. The reality is all of college baseball, and I mean JUCO, NJCAA, NAIA, NCAA Divisions 3, 2, and obviously 1. They're going to be filled with older, stronger, talented student athletes. That is never going to change. It's going to maintain the quality of play that these college coaches have become accustomed to during the post-COVID time. The impact on recruiting really is all about the increased competition. Competition is what college coaches thrive on. And so with fewer roster spots, the 40, coaches actually like that because now you're really saddling up the guys that you're going to go play the games with. And you don't have to worry about those guys that are sitting on the bench and not getting opportunity. Focus more of your attention, not so much on the transfer portal and who's in it and who's not in it, but really begin to focus on where you're fit as a high school athlete can be. Focus on geographics, academics, athletics, the campus environment. Those are the things that you need to focus on as a potential college student athlete. The name, image, and likeness and all of the other ancillary new parts of the settlement, they'll occur even at other levels of college baseball, but your priority is to find the right fit for your athlete with regard to college. So let's start to talk about how recruiting actually works. Now, this is something that every single family needs to really listen to and adhere to, because all of these changes, they have really set into motion kind of a return to patience, return to allowing athletes to develop physically mature, mentally mature, obviously with regard to academics as well. These roster cuts, yes, it means fewer roster spots, but in reality, let's break that down. Rosters now are going to go to 34-man rosters. And if we take half of that and we just say 17 are pitchers, we're going to get 17 position players times approximately 300 schools. That means there's 6,000 position players, catchers, infielders, and outfielders. And maybe we'll throw a DH in there. And so you're talking about 6,000 total Division I roster spots at the NCAA level. NCAA Division III is approximately the same, in Division II approximately the same. So we're talking about 18,000 student athletes that are position players. Coaches are going to prioritize all of these impact players, meaning pitchers, power bats, things of that nature. So obviously their first focus with regard to recruiting is going to be the portal athletes that are going to transition year after year. That's never going to stop. Also, the JUCO graduates. They're older, they have resumes, they have the experience as a college student as well as a college athlete. So it's really important for you as high school athletes, don't be disappointed in the pace. We are no longer chasing 8th, 9th, 10th graders. We're really letting that talent develop. And then as juniors and really seniors, that's where your recruiting will really begin to take place. Scholarships now are going to cover more than just your tuition, room, and board. There's going to be, obviously, with regards to meal money, things of that nature. Scholarships may not be as readily available or available at all under the term scholarship at Division III levels, but Division II is 9 full scholarships. That has not changed. A 36-man roster, Division II. Division I, 34 with they can go up to 34 scholarships. The vast majority will probably stay, as I stated earlier, 11.7 to maybe 15. But there's no such thing as going to be 34 full rides across 300 Division I schools. So there's going to be opportunities out there. The number one thing that you as a family need to focus on is spending those high school years being prepared, preparing yourself physically, foot speed, academics, all of the things that we talk about week after week with college coaches. These are the things that are going to come into play now with regard to the scholarship offers. The recruiting timeline has changed. I need to stress this because a lot of parents are still thinking we're missing out. August 1st is coming, my son is going to be a junior. Those days of rushing for college coaches are pretty much gone, and they're not coming back anytime soon. And I want you to understand that college coaches are going to monitor progress. And so if you have a plan, which is critical from your freshman year all the way through and into your senior year, and even possibly a postgraduate year, you will be ready when your feet hit the ground at your college selection during your fall of your freshman year. One of the things that I want you to understand is, yes, August 1st is still that window for the rising junior, meaning if you're currently a 2027, this year, August 1st, college coaches can initiate contact directly with you, text, phone calls, emails. That's generally when they start. But don't be disappointed if your phone is not ringing off the hook, because to be honest with you, college coaches now, as I've said many, many times, June and midpoint of July is primarily going out to watch college summer baseball. And then from the midpoint of July through the end of August and into October with events in Jupiter and Fort Myers, also Lake Point with the PBR Futures area code. Those are the events that the college coaches are going to spend a great deal of time with. Understand D2 slightly earlier, July, June, early mid to June, and that is after the completion of your sophomore year. So Division II does have a little bit of a head start on the D1s. Number one takeaway, do not discount if a coach at any level of any, whether it's D3, JUCO, D1, D2, don't discount based on where those coaches are, because now more than ever, you as parents need to widen that lens and understand an NAIA school, which is becoming extremely popular, especially at the Division I level at NAIA, elite baseball being played there. Also, Division II, if you watched Tampa, you watched some of these schools that take place in the College World Series, these guys are elite athletes. So more importantly, parents, widen your lane, cast a wider net, make sure you're open to talking to coaches. More importantly, if they contact your son, make sure your son is getting back in contact with them. Don't blow off any coaches. Don't, always return a call, always return a text, even if it's to say, I'm sorry, but at this time I'm not interested, it doesn't fit my academic focal point, or it doesn't fit my geographics, whatever it might be, always communicate with your college coaches. Number one thing to understand is official and unofficial visits. There's going to be, you always have access to unofficial visits. Always take a tour. Always go and watch college practices. Don't wait for the season. Go and see a practice in the fall. Go and see how the coaches interact with the athletes. Just make sure you understand, now more than ever, those official visits are going to be really used sparingly. And they're being used not only for the high school athletes, also the portal athletes. And they have to be funded and agreed upon by the athletic department for each individual athlete. As you're entering your junior spring, January 1st of your junior spring. So really communicate and ask, are official visits open, or is it okay if I take an unofficial visit to your school? One of the things I really want you to understand that gets lost in all of this dialogue, we go on to social media, we go on to these various websites, and we see baseball, physicality, foot speed, but we don't talk enough about academics. I have a young man that's going to Abilene Christian, left-handed pitcher out of Argyle, Texas, and we were able to get him a combination of academic and athletic money that essentially paid for his entire academic year in and year out for 4 years, but also put a little money in his pocket. So it's a little bit of name, image, and likeness, but largely due to his academic profile. I strongly encourage you to maintain a relationship with either a tutor or a test prep. Even though there's a lot of test optional, academics play an integral role. That money is guaranteed for 4 years as long as you're maintaining your academic requirements for that merit money or scholarship money. So academics absolutely play a vital role with regard to college recruiting in the school that you end up at. Next, I want to talk to you something that we get, this word is overutilized, it's called exposure. We do not need exposure into anything at the freshman, sophomore, or even junior level. Do not go to a college showcase before you are ready to be seen, making sure you have a skill that is projectable at the college level and obviously beyond. college camps are always good because you're going to learn from the college coaches as to what they're looking for, what they seek during their recruiting. Are they looking for foot speed? Are they looking for guys that play the middle of the field? Do they have left-handed hitters? Anytime you go to a camp, you should utilize that as informational-based opportunity, not a recruiting event. If you do that, it'll make your camp much more enjoyable and it will relax the expectations of your student athletes. Next, here's the big thing. College athletics is about relationships. Build those relationships at a very young age, if you can. You know, sending emails, sending messages, snail mail, videos that introduce yourself. Developing a rapport is really, really critical. And when you have all of this information, one part of this process that I don't think we talk about enough is the utilization in today's world of technology of the apps. The best app, in my opinion, from a baseball perspective, is the Baseball Blue Book. Baseball Blue Book now, I've seen it in action over the last several weeks, where the guys that are creating their profiles are getting contacted not only by college coaches with regard to camps, but it's also allowing college coaches to monitor your progression. So you might have a video in there from your freshman year in high school, you might have a video from a fall event, and then the summer of your sophomore year, etc. The Blue Book is a great place to have a free profile, put all your contact information, and it allows college coaches to monitor your kind of progression as a student athlete. Next, I can't say this strongly enough. You need to explore all of your options. You need to, as a family, really start to go through the NAIA, the NCAA Division III, the NCAA Division II and I. Those are your 4-year options. Those schools are, in my opinion, where you're building relationships with not only the student body and obviously your team, but the faculty, the community, things like that. And so really taking the time to explore all your options will not make you feel like you're being backed into a corner or running out of time. The wider your net, the more you kind of are getting and gathering information. So when it comes time to your junior, senior year, you have a good understanding of what those schools are going to offer your student athlete. So a lot of times when we start talking about timelines and recruiting, it's frustrating for parents because you really don't know, when does this process begin? When should I be contacting the coaches? When should my athletes be reaching out to college coaches? And the answer to that, the world is different than it was last month. Now, freshman year, sophomore year, even your junior year, focus on the controllables. Don't chase. Choose. You have to choose your path. So let's start really at the beginning. Freshman year is really when you want that evaluation. Someone that you trust. That's something that I've been doing now for decades when I'm helping with the families that I work with for 38 years, is getting them to understand your evaluation is just a snapshot at where you're at today and where you want to go. I call it the floor and the ceiling. That's what scouts use, that terminology. Your freshman year is about building a great foundation, academically, athletically, creating good daily routines, having some format of time management skills. Freshman year, use that as, okay, I'm around older guys, I'm in high school, I see how they're working out, I see how they're moving athletically, I see their discipline, and whether it's in the weight room or with regard to skill set development. That's really your freshman year. Your sophomore year, you're kind of getting into that, okay, I'm older, I know my surroundings. This is where you're really beginning to focus on that strength, speed, and skill set development. Still not really ready or worried in any way, shape, or form. And anybody that tells you differently with regard to your freshman and sophomore year in high school is just lying to you. You do not have to have any predetermined or early skill sets that are going to matter to college. Meaning, if you're throwing 82 and you're a freshman or a sophomore, so what? Don't worry about it. You still have growth ahead of you from the ages of your sophomore year to your senior year in college. So it's not where you start. It's really about focusing on where you're trying to go with your plan. What is your desired destination? Freshman, sophomore, Get an understanding and evaluation. Have an idea of what you need. Strength, speed. Is my foot speed being addressed? Has anybody talked to me about my foot speed? My skill sets. Am I going to be a multi-position, a versatile athlete? Don't pigeonhole. Don't just be a shortstop. Don't just be a center fielder. Don't just be a catcher. Try to see the field in its entirety to get some understanding of what each position requires. As you're rounding into your junior year, that's the most challenging academically. That's the most challenging physically. Mental growth, physical growth. The athletes begin to change. Those that might have been a step or two slower suddenly find themselves being a little bit more fleet of foot, a little bit more athletic. You're growing into your body. It's not as gangly. It's not as, kind of tight. You get some fluid movement patterns. Some skill sets are developing. Now your junior year, you start to kind of have an understanding of, where do I fit within my high school program? Where do I fit within my Legion or my travel program? Whatever you're utilizing during the summer months. You have an idea of who you are as a student athlete. Now you want to begin to write down or begin to communicate, whether it's with your teachers, whether it's with your coaches. Okay, this is really where I'm trying to get to. How far away am I? Junior year is the identification of, okay, here's where you're at. And you desire to be at this level, whether it's Division II, Division I. Okay, in order to get there, what do I need to be? Where do I need to be? Foot speed, strength, arm strength, position, skill set. That's the identification year. That's the year you begin to go on some unofficial visits with your family. That's when you start to go to some college camps and see if there's a fit not only as an athlete, but as a student. We get lost in this whole minutia of, baseball, but college, it's a complete experience. The campus, where is the library? Where is the cafeteria? Where are my academic buildings? Where am I taking classes? How far away from my dorm is the baseball field? Those are things you want to begin to explore your junior year. Because as you're creating this list and you're entering into your senior year, you begin to cross schools off that don't fit what you perceive is to be your desired destination. Communication. This is not a coach to an athlete dynamic. Communication is a direct contact from an athlete, not mom, not dad, not your college, your high school coach, your travel coach. If you're a student athlete and you have a passion for a school, create that personal video. Take the time to introduce yourself to a coach. Tell them why you feel that that university or that college fits for your academic, for your athletic, for your cultural and social activities and desires with regard to the college process. But the communication really begins in earnest in your junior year, not your freshman or your sophomore year in high school. Way too early. No need. Do not go and try to be in front of college coaches. It's too early. Think about the portal is filled with 21 to 25-year-old athletes. Good, bad, or indifferent, that's just the fact. Your 15 and 16-year-old are not going to look the same next to these physically mature men. So wait, be patient, take your time. Make sure that by your junior year you're exploring. Your senior year you're refining. You're eliminating schools that don't fit. You're finding where you are wanted. What coaches want you? What coaches are communicating with you? That should tell you everything you need to know as a prospective student athlete. Hey, this coach calls me every Thursday. This coach comes to my games. This coach emails me once a week, or he follows me on social media. That shows interest. If you're an athlete and you're sending out messages and your calls are not being returned, your messages or your emails not being returned, that is a subtle but loud indication there's not a mutual feeling of I want you. And you have to move forward. It doesn't mean that you're not good enough. It just means it might not be a fit. Maybe that coach has too many outfielders, too many infielders, or maybe he has enough catchers in his last two classes and he's going to let them develop and play. Never take anything personal. It's not personal. It's a business. We as parents need to look at this as a business. College athletics. June 6th, put it right out on the headlines. It's a massive, mega, billion-dollar business. And so you have to be prepared to act, but most importantly, react accordingly. Don't take it personal. Just because one coach doesn't have room at the end doesn't mean the next won't love you and want you and welcome you with open arms. One of the biggest topics that I find myself discussing with those families that I have are working with currently or have worked with in the past is the sleepers, the unknowns. You know, we get so lost and caught up in Division I. It's a Division I settlement, name, image, and likeness, Division I, Power 4, all of these big terminologies. What gets lost in that whole transactional experience with regard to youth baseball is NAIA and NCAA Division III. What's the theme? What's the common thread? And that is the balance of the total college experience. Now we can talk baseball, I can talk baseball for weeks, months, years, no problem. Where do academics fall with regard to your future decision with regard to college? NAIA. Predominantly, if we start to talk about where the heart or the meat of those schools are located, they're located in the southeast, down by into the Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, in through Georgia, areas like that, Georgia Gwinnett, Reinhardt, the Cumberlands, Johnson. Obviously, if we go out west to Ottawa and Arizona, they offer great academic packages. They have great athletic packages. They offer you the ability as a family to actually work out for a coach or with a team. They offer you balance with regard to smaller campuses, really more one-on-one interaction with your coaches. Really, I have lots of interviews with a lot of NAIA coaches on the YouTube channel. Also, NCAA Division III, Ithaca, Salisbury, all of this talent is now flowing and spreading itself out. NAIA has boys that will be drafted in the 1st through 10th round just as much as the ACC or the SEC. So the more that you can begin to structure and really include NAIA and NCAA Division III schools, again, it's all about getting your opportunity to build your resume. In today's world, the portal has become a part of doing business. And your business, your brand as a student athlete, you need reps. It's one thing to go to a great school. Are you seeking opportunity or are you seeking validation? A lot of parents get lost in that validation. My son's going Division I. Nobody cares. Are you a college student athlete? Are you active? Are you participating? And most of all, do you enjoy your college campus? How do you stand out to a college coach? If you were to sit down with a college coach, one of the first questions that they're going to ask you is, what kind of grades do you have? What kind of academic transcript do you have? Biggest understanding that you need to have. Academics don't just tell coaches about how you are as a student. It tells you about your discipline, your regiment with regard to study habits, time management. Anytime you start talking about academics, don't just think about grades. Don't just think about transcript. It's about community service. What are you doing in your community? What are you doing within your school? How are you making a difference? Are you a glue person within your high school? That's what college coaches are really looking for. How do you separate yourself within the student body at your high school, and how are you going to bring that to the college campus where you're looking to play baseball? We do not talk enough about skill. Skill set development has to be an individual part, meaning don't wait for the coaches, don't wait for your travel coaches, your lessons, your instructors. Make sure you have a plan, whether it's wall ball, having a parent throw balls, hit ground balls to you, roll ground balls to you. Even as a catcher, you can do things with regard to the pro line balls, learning how to teach your hands how to receive. Skill set, both physically and mentally, skill set. It's an integral part of the vernacular of college coaches when they're evaluating. Hey, Walt, what can you tell me about this guy's skill sets? What's the floor? What's the ceiling? Where can he play? Where does he want to play? Skills, they are separators. Don't worry about exit velocity, throwing velocity. Your skill set As a pitcher, can you dot the glove side with a fastball? Can you throw a secondary pitch in a plus count? As a hitter, 0-2, are you going to basically mail in the at-bat, or are you going to grind out and try to put a ball in play to help your team? From an exposure standpoint, are you looking to get exposed, or are you looking for exposure? Two big, really big differences. When you're doing anything to do with a showcase that has videos and they sell you videos, remember, this is a big business model. And all of this uncertainty with regard to recruiting is just going to get more parents that are going to become very, the attack of the predators. They're going to come in there and they want to video your student athlete so that you have a professional video to send out to a college coach. None of that. Showcases, all these things that you're being asked to do, 8th grade, 9th grade, even 10th grade. There's no longer a need for that, because those coaches are not going to be looking at the younger teenage athletes. They're looking for the skill, the size, the speed, the physicality, the mentality, and most of all, they're looking for resiliency. Most 8th graders, 9th, 10th graders, what is resiliency to a young 14 through 16-year-old? 17 and 18, you're starting to drive, you have more responsibility. Are you going to take that 76 test score out to the field today and be pouting? What type of resiliency do you have as an athlete? Those things begin to show through maturity. We don't need to buy exposure showcases. We don't need to buy fancy videos. Coaches just want to see your athlete move. When I'm doing evaluation videos, all I want to see is somebody swing, throw, play, catch. That will show me, how does your arm work? How does your lower half, what kind of base, what kind of foundation? How athletic are you? That is the key when it comes to anything to do with preparing to become an exposed potential college student athlete. Make sure you're ready to be seen, and don't be premature in trying to rush out to showcases or camps at the younger ages. When it comes to recruiting, a lot of times we leave it in the hands of those that we trust, whether that be travel baseball instructors, could be high school coaches, and we kind of become very reactive. Recruiting is a space that requires you as individual family to be very accountable and very proactive. Being proactive doesn't mean trying to chase every shiny object that comes forward, whether it's gadgets or gurus. It means having a plan. College recruiting is not about following other people's path. You as an individual now, as a high school athlete today, need to begin to understand the brand of Walter Beede as a 9th, 10th, and 11th grader. You're creating a brand. The people that you hang around with, your interactions with your teachers, your administrators, your teammates, and your classmates, your brand. So when you take the approach of being proactive, it means, okay, I'm going to be making a notebook or a journal. I'm going to start having goals, whether they're weekly, monthly, yearly, etc. Being proactive and making sure you're making progressions. A lot of families that I work with, the athletes will send me their weights every Saturday, at various times of the day, but that shows accountability. That shows that they're being accountable for their strength gains, their weight gains. It means they're being proactive with regard to their process. You need to take ownership of your process. A lot of times I mention in this space, and I'm not trying to paint with a broad brush here, but there are people that are very predator orientated, and they really are relying on the fact that many parents, many families are misinformed, uninformed, and they have a strong fear that their student athlete won't be ready. The key here is college coaches have now slowed this entire process that benefits the late bloomer, but more importantly, the bloomer that is preparing every step of the way. Know who you are today, know who you would like to be tomorrow, and know what direction you're heading. You want to make sure you're creating a clear roadmap for your student athlete, not athletes that have come before you almost decades before, because those athletes are not relevant to the world that we live in today with regard to college athletics. You need to understand, much like when you go into the Waze app, like if I'm going into Boston, it gives you your main route, your best route, but there's also alternative routes in case there's an accident, in case there's construction. College recruiting is like that in every single way, because as we know today, college coaches are moving around, programs come and go, athletes will have to be dispersed into the portal. So the biggest thing that you want to be able to do is you really want to have a good, firm understanding of where your athlete is currently at and where they're going. One of the biggest pieces to this puzzle, again, is that baseball blue book. You want to make sure that you're updating your profile on a regular basis. See who's endorsing your student athlete. Why are they endorsing your student athlete? How is your student athlete progressing? It gives you, the blue book gives you access. And that's the number one part of recruiting, is access. You want to know, how do I reach out to this coach at Emory? How do I reach out to the coach at Endicott or Salve, BC, Vanderbilt, Duke, etc.? The Blue Book has been around since 1909. It's constantly being updated. But my point is Major League Scout, instructors, travel teams, showcases, camps, it's all in the Blue Book, and that's a part of your athlete's ability to be proactive in seeking out and being accountable with regard to getting in front of college coaches on a regular basis, as far as being able to show their skill set today, what their skill sets are looking like as they're getting older and maturing, both physically and mentally. And that's a key component. With regard to recruiting, coaches might not tell you they're watching, but if a college coach gets a call and I call them, hey, Walt, I know you have a couple guys that are in the class of 27. Anybody that I need to be aware of? They're only trying to begin to start their list. Why? They're being proactive. They want to make sure that they're prepared, that nobody just kind of comes out of nowhere. They want to kind of have an understanding. They have people like me all over the country, and they have alumni that have played for them in the past, and that is who they're going to rely on more than anything when it comes to your student athletes' initial introduction to various college programs. Next thing, I want to talk to you about how to train effectively and smart. Training doesn't need to be exhausting. It needs to be, we just talked with Ben Fairchild, and you've seen me talk with Eric Cressy. Again, all that's on the YouTube channel, part of the free information that you as parents have access to by just simply subscribing. But when you say train smart, what does that mean? Ben Fairchild brought up a great point. I refer to it as a movement screen. He calls it an intake evaluation. An intake meaning he's looking at that athlete to become part of his training facility. So they have to do an intake evaluation. Where are you tight? Believe it or not, if you go back and you listen to Ben, he will tell you that he's able to tell 13, 14, and 15-year-olds if they have a future as a pitcher based on internal, external rotation, shoulder, elbows, hips, things like that. You have to train smart. Just because the football team has that one workout program, or your baseball team has one size does not fit all. So when it comes to recruiting, you need an individual approach. It's critical to be with the right strength coach, the right skill set coach, the right mental performance coach, because this all together creates the recipe for your student athlete to be able to be prepared when they want to be a part of college athletics. Understand one thing that's critical in this process. You are afraid, you are worried, and people will prey upon that. If you take the time to simply create a game plan and understand where your athlete is today, what are his likes? What are his dislikes? What are his needs? Where does he need to become more proficient or more the ability to excel as he gets older is going to be strictly based on what plan you created with your athlete. Don't worry about recruiting at 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. Worry about preparing to be recruited. That's the critical part to this entire process. Week after week, I have family after family that reaches out to me, and the first thing I ask them for is with a video, and that video can show me, does this young man have a plan? Is he prepared to be a college caliber student athlete? Recognize the numbers, the sheer numbers tell us 250,000 high school athletes that want to be college players. There's 450 to 500,000 high school baseball players, but only half or maybe 40% of that number really want to play in college. And recognize there's only enough room for about 40 to 50,000 student athletes across the country. Make sure for parents, just be supportive of your student athletes. Really do some research. Really go in today's world, you can go into ChatGPT, you can go to Grok, you can go to Google, YouTube, Coach Beede, go, get informed, find the information that you need in order to make sure that your student athlete is ready to communicate, ready to be able to initiate their process with regard to college coaching. The biggest part of this entire process is your plan. The plan has to be an individual plan. You cannot prepare for someone else's journey, whether it happened in the past or you're chasing someone that may be in front of you. You have to have your own individual plan. Plan for growth, plan for academically, physically, mentally, maturity. All of that has to be part of your process. The number one thing, parents want to spend money on lessons. They want to spend money on travel and showcases and all these ancillary things. They're more icing than they are cake. You really want to begin to understand your investment in your athlete is something that begins probably 8th grade, 9th grade, if they have conveyed to you that they have a desire, an interest, or the ability to play not only at the high school level, but beyond the high school level. One of those types of investments. Think about all of the money that you have spent over the last calendar year, specifically for the sport of baseball. You can agree things like these ancillary charges like gate fees, hotels, food, travel expenses, gas, airlines, etc. All of those are investments. Where are they taking you to? What are they providing your athlete? Thinking about the membership portion of the YouTube channel. Here's what I'm trying to get parents to understand. College recruiting service, thousands of dollars. Thousands of dollars, that's a fact. Here, with the membership, you're getting updated information directly from the college coaches. You're getting access to the Eric Cressys, the Ben Fairchilds, Tamara Siemens, the Brett McCabe's, the people that are going to make a difference in your student athlete's life. You're going to hear from me with regard to keeping you up to date on all of the changes as they occur on that time parameter that matters most for your student athlete. $20 a month, it's not that big of a deal when you start to think $240 over the course of a year, and you're going to get all of the information that you need as families to make sure you're making an informed, educated decision about every step that your student athlete takes from their 8th or 9th grade year all the way through high school or postgraduate year on their way to college athletics. Your action plan. You want to create a journal, a checklist. Okay, here's part of the checklist that you need to really have down. A video journal, your video journal. Everybody is in such a rush to make sure that we put highlights out on social media, on X or Instagram, TikTok. The highlight reel is for you as a family to go through so that you can see the progression and you can pick out the pieces that show maturity, skill set development. And then you can email that to coaches. You can send that to people that are looking and to get out in front of the college, recruit. They want to know, they want to be informed, hey, who's the 28 that I might need to know so that I can follow them. The other part of this is your training. We focus so much on trying to get to these showcases, to these camps. We don't talk about the training. The training component for the younger athlete means daily discipline, daily routine, weekly discipline, weekly routines. Things like sleep, that's free. Things like your eating habits, making sure that you're not just doing the fast food and the Gatorade, making sure that your athletes are truly trying to change and develop their body, their mind. All of that comes from routine, time management skills. That's really what training is. Don't get so lost and absorbed, leaving all of these decisions to other people. Your student athletes have to take accountability, making sure that they're getting to bed on time, they're getting their sleep, they're maybe doing some meal prep, maybe they're making sure their training schedule fits into their study routines and their social schedules, things like that. I want you to understand as parents, the training is mattering. It matters so much more for your student athlete with regard to what college they ultimately get the opportunity to attend, not the showcases, not the tournaments, not all of the camps, not all of these things that you're chasing are going to lead to the development that's going to matter most when your student athlete has to go in a weight room with men that are 20 to 24, some cases 25 years old. They are physically and mentally prepared. They are mentally prepared to handle all of the disciplined things that come in, like, do I go with my friends or do I go train? There becomes that kind of that fork in the road where they have to have that discipline to say, I have to get my sleep in, I don't need to go to that party. Those are part of the training that we don't necessarily always hear or discuss, but that's an integral part of the college recruiting experience. You know, I want to talk to you as a parent about the parent's role with regard to the whole high school process and college recruiting. You know, a lot of times when I'm working with families, I try to get them to understand that your student athlete has to be the one that's driving the bus. They have to be the one that is literally charting the course, and they are accountable for their routines and their disciplines. You know, parents, you don't want to have a lot of interactions with coaches. You don't want to call coaches, email coaches, text coaches. A lot of parents are managing or micromanaging their student athletes' social media. You have to be very aware that at the next level, all of these are going to be left entirely to your student athlete. The sooner that they begin to have an awareness and an understanding that they're creating their own brand. So when we talk recruiting, we think we're talking about competing with all of these peers that are at these various travel events, when in reality, your student athlete is actually competing with people that are already there. You know, these are people that might be redshirt freshmen when your son is a sophomore or junior in high school. Guess what? They're going to be a junior or a senior competing for your son or your student athlete's roster spot. So when I start to talk about things like this, I try to get you to be understanding of, here's what lies ahead. It's mental discipline. It's like a boot camp mentally and physically. Our student athletes are challenged physically and mentally to see if they can handle the pressure, the competition. And the sooner that we allow our athletes to fall and fail, especially with regard to the recruiting process, guess what? Some coach is going to tell your student athlete, I'm sorry, but we don't think your skills meet our criteria or our needs at this point. That is a very difficult thing to hear as a high school student athlete. Just because someone doesn't want you at one school doesn't mean other schools will not be more receptive. But the sooner that we allow our athletes to begin to drive their bus and begin to plan their path, the better off they'll be when they hit that senior year in high school leading into that freshman year in college. This should start. Your recruiting mindset up to this point has always been about, okay, college recruiting, freshmen, when do we get on their radar? College coaches aren't thinking about freshmen and sophomores on their radar. They might identify and somebody might be brought to their attention, but they're not going to actively recruit. They're not going to actively engage with your freshmen or sophomores, even at a camp. What you have to begin to understand, the time between your 8th grade year and your junior year in high school. What are you doing to prepare yourself to become a recruitable student athlete? I mention this to every family that I take the time to work with. If you take each day individually and you have a process that your athlete can follow, he's not conforming to somebody else's process. He's created his own kind of process in his mind. I am a middle infielder. I have to work on my foot speed. So when college coaches begin to engage with your student athlete, one of the things I want you to understand is he's going to be brought into a room, and that college coach is going to sit with him alone as an individual, or on the phone, or via a stream call, okay? And they want to hear from the athlete. And so when they get to start to talk to the athlete, hey, what are you doing on a regular basis? Well, this is my daily routine. This is my weekly routine. I felt I needed to challenge myself a little bit in the classroom, so I'm really anchoring down and getting my study time schedule, time management skills under control. I'm getting into the weight room earlier in the morning as opposed to leaving it later in the afternoon. What you're basically telling the college coach is you have discipline, you are determined, and you have a plan. Recruiting, we think it's all about baseball. There's more than the athletic side when college coaches are recruiting. Do you have the right temperament? Do you have the right maturity mentally, emotionally? Can you handle yourself when all chaos is breaking out around you? And that is easily seen when a coach is talking to your student athlete. So part of recruiting is preparing your student athlete for the initial dialogue and Q&A process that begins to take place between coach and student athlete. The sooner you start that with your student athlete as a freshman, sophomore in high school, getting them to think for themselves, make decisions in the betterment of them as a brand, recognize when you're being recruited, it's the brand of Tyler Beede. It's the brand of Walter Beede. They want to know what you're like, not only in the locker room or between the lines, but out in the community, out in the student body, out with the faculty, and how your student athlete answers questions, is prepared to answer questions, to have a plan. That shows attention to detail, it shows maturity, and it shows college coaches, you're a student athlete that I want to recruit. You know, lots of times, especially when I'm doing my YouTube lives, I get a lot of questions that come in not only during the live session, but after, whether it's DMs. I also get a lot of emails. And as parents, I know you are constantly inundated with, you're seeing something on social media, you get somebody on YouTube that's saying something different that you think is better or they think is better, and we're all being pulled in a myriad of different directions, and we all keep using this word recruiting. Every facet of life, your athletes, your students are being recruited, whether it's a group of friends, whether it's a social club, whether it's something as a social activity, you're always being recruited in some capacity. College athletics are not a rite of passage. This is a highly, highly competitive space. We all want to talk about divisions and levels of college athletics. To be a college athlete means discipline, skill, and mental maturity. And that is something that it's really part of, it takes a village to raise a child. And really, if we start to think about this process, part of the reason why I even started this YouTube channel was because during COVID, I had parents coming at me, we can't practice, we can't do travel lessons, we can't do any of this stuff, what do we do? And I wrote a book and I started doing these, locker room sessions and the Twitter spaces and things like that. And I couldn't see people and people couldn't see me, but I began to generate a following and suddenly people were reaching out. This is something I've been doing for over 38 years. And I've been a dad for 35 of those years. So I want you to understand, I do this primarily because A, I'm very, very passionate. It's something that I've always loved since I've been a very young kid. I've told you in the past, my parents passed away when I was very young. A lot of friends that I hung around with in the city of Lynn, Mass, they went in a different direction. For me, it was always the beacon of baseball. Sports utilizes, and it creates passion. It creates a focus, a foundation, and that's how I work when I'm working with athletes and families. I want parents to know I have boys that I've worked with since they were 10, 11 years old, and they're from all over the country, and I've watched them grow up. And one of the things that I wanted to make sure when I started this channel was to give you access, and so that is really the foundation of why I started the YouTube channel, why I maintain a social media presence. The biggest thing is when I provide access for you as parents, I want you to feel like you have a resource, a trusted resource. You're going to hear from the college coaches. I ask the college questions, the questions that you send to me. You want to know about strength training. You want to talk about nutrition. You want to talk about supplements, skill set. We want to talk to big leaguers. We want to talk to major league coaches. We want to understand the realities of the process. So with that in mind, I'm going to be doing these types of segments probably once or twice a month going forward for members that are members of the YouTube channel. And again, that is a $20 a month charge. But you can subscribe for free, and you can hit that notification bell, and anytime I add my free content, and there's usually about 6 to 8 pieces of videos that are free, completely free, that you can use to help your process and make sure that you are able to obtain and be as educated, as informed as you can be to make sure that your student athlete is headed in the right direction. Number one thing I want you to understand, each and every week that you hear me talking with a college coach, this is a relationship. These are friendships. This is a fraternity of people within the sport of baseball. I don't know how to be an auto mechanic. I'm certainly not handy enough with a hammer or a saw, but the one thing that I've lived my entire life and really developed lifelong relationships is through the sport of baseball. And all of these coaches, both at the collegiate level, the professional level, the travel level, we have one very common thread. We want to pass the baton of the sport forward. So if $20 a month is a little too much, I want to let you know the subscription is free. Also, if you want a newsletter, it's a free weekly college recruiting newsletter. Free, F-R-E-E, free newsletter. Send it out. I basically break down my discussions with the coaches, with some of the athletes that play at the collegiate and professional level, sharing a little insight of what lies ahead for your student athlete with regard to development within the game. The number one thing that I would like for you to understand is this is a two-way interaction. You have questions, I want you to ask me questions. I'm hoping you're going to drop some tonight while I'm doing this chat. What I want to do is provide a resource on the ongoing basis, not just once a month, not just once a week. I deal with a lot of parents that will say, John had difficulty that week, and I'm able to kind of allow them to navigate through their storms, through the sunny, beautiful days, as well as the tumultuous days that are inevitably ahead. So I want to make sure that I emphasize in this particular video, college recruiting. It's bigger than just baseball. There's a lot of information that you have to weed through as far as the requirements academically, the requirements athletically, who has room, who doesn't have room. And I think that this is something that you as parents want to have on a weekly basis, not a once a month basis or once every other month, a weekly basis. So from subscribing to the YouTube channel to being a member of the YouTube channel, the membership for $20 is going to overload you. Books, courses, instructional videos, insightful college tours when I go to visit these campuses. You're going to have access to the College Coaches Corner, where every single week I'm talking to coaches at all levels. It's not just once a week. Sometimes I'm adding 2 or 3 discussions with college coaches. What you need is an edge that allows you to kind of rise above what everybody else is doing. Instead of running with the crowd, you can separate yourself and really find out why it is the college coaches want to spend time talking to me, why they call me and trust me with regard to evaluations. This week alone has been crazy. We all know that. But I can tell you that college coaches, post-grad schools, some high schools in and across the country, hey, Walt, what do you have? Who do you have? Who should I be seeing? I need a left-handed hitting catcher. I need a right-handed pitcher that can throw strikes. These are the types of things where I've gained that trust over these last 38 years. I'm a huge proponent as evidenced by the decisions that my sons made to go to college. I believe firmly in the college experience, not just the college baseball component, but the college experience. A lot of adults want to tell children, you can go to college at any time. You can take classes online. To me, you're missing out on the biggest part of the growth between 18 to 23 or 24 is being a college student before life gets in the way. So the two things I want you to take away from tonight. First of all, if you like this, I would love for you to give me a thumbs up. Please give me a thumbs up, and at worst, subscribe. It's free. Also, let me know in the chat if you'd like to be part of the weekly newsletter. I'll send that out to you free of charge. Send that out to you each and every week, making sure you're kept up to date. Most importantly, I want to make sure you understand, by downloading the Blue Book app, you're getting access to all of this information that we're talking about. The Blue Book, and that's part of the membership experience, the Blue Book brings with it your evaluation, where you get a one-on-one call with me. I do a stream call with every member, and I do an evaluation on the video that you send to me. I tell you what I see and what your plan might benefit from. That's an integral part of the membership. Also with the Blue Book, I tell you what types of videos to add, when to add your videos, when and how to communicate with your college coaches. Again, $20 a month for the membership of YouTube. All you have to do to get started, download the Baseball Blue Book app, create your profile, let me know that you want to get an evaluation. I'll set up a time. We'll do a stream call together via email. It's live one-on-one. If I can't be where you are, we can talk face-to-face. That's what this is all about. I'm looking forward to answering your questions. Go ahead and kind of send those to me now. And look forward to this now once or twice a month, where we're going to do this recruiting breakdown and get a little bit more specific as we get closer to fall baseball and the end of the transfer portal. Thank you for joining me tonight. Spread the word. Tell people in your baseball community, family, friends that have an interest, not only in baseball, but college athletics in general or youth sports. I would like to become your resource, most importantly, your trusted resource with regard to college athletics, high school athletics, and youth athletics. Thank you, and let's answer some questions.